The chamber is open and full of whispers.
The headmaster's office is silent except for the soft clicking of silver instruments. 3 cribs stand in a triangle around Fawkes's perch. Empty. Waiting. Albus Dumbledore, 100 years old, paces between them. His hands shake slightly, not from age, but from fear. He has defeated dark wizards, dueled Grindelwald, led the Order of the Phoenix through a brutal war, but he has never been solely responsible for an infant. A knock at the door. Enter, Dumbledore calls. Rubeus Hagrid enters, cradling a small bundle wrapped in blankets. His face is streaked with tears. "Professor," Hagrid's voice breaks, "I got him from the ruins, just like ye asked." Dumbledore takes the bundle carefully, pulls back the blanket, a baby boy, perhaps a year old, black hair already messy, and on his forehead, a lightning bolt scar, fresh and angry red. Green eyes blink up at Dumbledore, too knowing for a baby, too aware. "Harry," Dumbledore whispers. Harry Potter, the boy's hand reaches up, grabs Dumbledore's beard. Dumbledore's eyes fill with tears. "Lily and James are gone, but you survived. Against all odds, you survived." He places Harry gently in the first crib. The baby immediately starts crying, a piercing, heartbroken wail. "Shh," Dumbledore tries, waves his wand. Quietus infantis, the crying continues. He tries a lullaby charm, a warmth spell, a comfort hex. Nothing works. Another knock. "Come in," Dumbledore says, raising his voice over Harry's wails. Professor McGonagall enters, carrying a smaller bundle. Her expression is grim. "Albus, the burrow was attacked tonight. Arthur and Molly Weasley, they didn't survive. Death Eaters, we believe. Retaliation for Arthur's work exposing dark artifact smuggling." Dumbledore goes pale. The children, found in a magically reinforced cupboard. Molly's last act was protecting him. Red hair, freckles already visible. The child is crying too, softer but persistent. He places Ron in the second crib. Now 2 babies are crying. "There's more," McGonagall says quietly. "The Ministry found a child in a Muggle orphanage 3 days ago. Her parents died in a car accident last month, but there were traces of dark magic. The crash wasn't accidental." Who? A Muggle-born girl, 2 years old. Her accidental magic created a shield around herself, but it activated too late to save her parents. The orphanage can't handle her. Objects keep moving when she's upset. The Ministry was going to obliviate her and place her with Muggles who'd never know she's magical. "No." Dumbledore's voice is firm. "Bring her here." Returns 5 minutes later with a small girl clutching a stuffed cat, bushy brown hair, large brown eyes currently filled with tears. She's not crying out loud, but tears stream down her face silently. "This is Hermione Granger," McGonagall says. Dumbledore kneels down to the girl's level. "Hello, Hermione. My name is Albus. Would you like to stay here with me?" Hermione looks at him, at the office, at the crying babies in the cribs. She nods once. Dumbledore picks her up. She's heavier than the babies, but still small, and places her in the third crib. She stands up immediately, gripping the bars, watching the 2 crying babies with intense focus. McGonagall looks at the 3 cribs, 3 orphaned children, 3 lives destroyed by Voldemort's war. "Albus, you cannot raise 3 children alone. You're the headmaster of Hogwarts. You have responsibilities." "I have 3 responsibilities standing before me," Dumbledore interrupts. "Everything else is secondary. The Board of Governors can object all they wish. These children need protection. They need love. They need someone who understands what they've lost." His voice hardens. "I failed Ariana. I failed to protect James and Lily. I will not fail these 3. I know. Will you help me, Minerva?" "Always." But the babies are still crying. Harry's wails have intensified. Ron has joined him at full volume. Hermione is starting to whimper. Dumbledore tries every spell he knows, every charm in his considerable repertoire. Nothing works. Then Fawkes descends from his perch. The phoenix settles on the edge of Harry's crib and begins to sing. The sound is pure, beautiful, ancient. Harry's crying stops mid-wail. His green eyes fix on the bird. Ron's crying fades to hiccups. Hermione stands perfectly still, transfixed. Fawkes sings for 3 full minutes. Then he hops to Ron's crib, to Hermione's. Back to his perch. Silence. Dumbledore stares. They respond to pure magic. They can feel it already. McGonagall nods slowly. Perhaps that's the key. Not spells designed to soothe, but magic that simply is. They're watching each other. He makes a decision. With a wave of his wand, the three cribs lift into the air and float together, forming a close triangle. The moment they're within reach of each other, something remarkable happens. Hermione's tiny hand reaches through the bars of her crib and grabs Harry's finger. Ron's foot kicks out, hitting the side of Harry's crib in a rhythmic pattern. Tap, tap, tap. Not aggressive, communicative. Harry's other hand finds Ron's through the bars. They settle like that. Connected, touching, aware of each other. Within 2 minutes, all three are asleep. Dumbledore and McGonagall watch in silence. They've bonded already, McGonagall whispers. Yes, perhaps that's the answer. Not 3 children raised separately, but 3 raised together. As siblings, as family. Speaks clearly, his voice resonant with power. I, Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore, do solemnly swear upon my magic and my life. I will guard these children not as weapons, not as pawns, but as the future worthy of protection. I will teach them power tempered by love, knowledge balanced by wisdom, and strength that serves rather than dominates. And should I fail, may my magic abandon me, for I would deserve no less. The castle shivers, every torch in the office flares bright. Fawkes trills, a sound of acceptance, of witnessing, of binding. The silver instruments stop clicking. The portraits on the walls open their eyes, watching. Magic itself has heard the vow. McGonagall's hand covers her mouth. Albus, what did you just do? I bound myself to them, and them to this castle. Hogwarts will recognize them now, not as students to arrive someday, but as children of its headmaster. They will grow up within these walls, protected by magic older than Voldemort, stronger than any dark curse. He looks at her. Minerva, I need you to witness something else, something I must tell them when they're old enough to understand. She nods. Dumbledore looks at baby Harry, the scar. It's not just a mark. I can feel it. There's a piece of Tom Riddle's soul attached to this child. McGonagall gasps. A horcrux. When Voldemort's curse rebounded, his unstable soul fractured. A piece latched on to the only living thing in the room. Harry. But I will find a way. I will research every text, every theory, every possibility. I will not let Tom Riddle's evil define this child's life. McGonagall looks at the 3 sleeping children. What will you tell people? The board? The ministry? The truth? 3 orphans of war, taken into my care. Harry Potter, who survived the killing curse. Ronald Weasley, last of his family line. Hermione Granger, a muggle-born prodigy showing signs of extraordinary power. The ministry won't object. I'm removing 3 problems from their hands. The board won't object. I'm the headmaster, and these children will be raised in the safest place in Britain. And when Voldemort returns, because you know he will, when he returns, he will face not 1 prophesied child, but 3 who have been trained from infancy in magic he cannot comprehend. 3 who know unity, love, and sacrifice. 3 who will be ready. Dumbledore conjures a comfortable chair and sits down between the cribs. He will not sleep tonight, or many nights to come. But watching the 3 children breathe in sync, hands still touching through the crib bars, he feels something he hasn't felt in decades. Hope. Dumbledore wakes to tiny hands patting his face. Hermione has climbed out of her crib, impressive for a 2-year-old, and is standing beside his chair looking at him with serious brown eyes. Hungry, she says. Dumbledore blinks, realizes he has absolutely no idea how to feed a toddler. The babies in the other cribs are stirring. Ron is making pre-crying sounds. Harry is watching Dumbledore with those knowing green eyes. Right, Dumbledore says. Food. Of course. He picks up Hermione, levitates a blanket around Ron, and carefully lifts Harry. 3 children, he only has 2 arms. McGonagall arrives at exactly the right moment, as though she sensed his panic. I've arranged for bottles, she says, producing them from thin air, and I've contacted the house elves about preparing appropriate meals. Though I must say, Albus, you look terrible. I haven't slept. I can see that. Go rest. I'll watch them for a few hours. No, I need to. Her voice is firm. You cannot care for them if you collapse from exhaustion. Go. Sleep. That's an order. Reluctantly, Dumbledore hands Harry to her, places Ron in her other arm with a levitation charm. Hermione clings to his leg. She likes you, McGonagall observes. Or she doesn't know anyone else. Now go. Dumbledore manages 3 hours of sleep before anxiety wakes him. When he returns, he finds McGonagall on the floor, surrounded by floating colored orbs. The children are watching, fascinated. Transfiguration demonstration, McGonagall explains. They seem to enjoy it. Harry reaches for a blue orb. It floats closer to him. Did he just... Dumbledore starts. Accidental magic, very controlled for a 1-year-old. Hermione points at a red orb. Mine. It floats to her. Ron is the only one not reaching for orbs. Instead, he's watching his hands opening and closing his tiny fists like he's trying to understand how they work. Fascinating, Dumbledore murmurs. They're already showing different approaches to magic. Over the next weeks, patterns emerge. Harry is intuitive. He doesn't think about magic. He feels it. Objects move toward him when he wants them. Lights dim when he's sad and brighten when he's happy. Hermione is analytical. Even at 2, she watches everything with intense focus. She notices patterns, repetitions. When Dumbledore levitates objects the same way 3 times, she starts anticipating the movement. Ron is physical. He learns through doing. At 6 months, he's too young for much, but Dumbledore notices he responds to motion, to rhythm, to tangible cause and effect. By December, Dumbledore has transformed his quarters into a nursery-library hybrid. Books line every wall. 3 small beds replace the cribs. Hermione kept escaping hers. Toys are scattered everywhere, mostly educational, charmed to respond to magical intent. The castle has adapted too. Portraits whisper to the children as they toddle past. Suits of armor bow. Staircases gentle their movements when small feet approach. Hogwarts recognizes them. One night, Dumbledore finds all 3 children missing from their beds. Panic floods him. He tears through the quarters, into the corridor, and finds them in his office. Harry and Hermione have somehow opened the door. It was locked. Ron is sitting on the floor. They've surrounded Fawkes's perch. The phoenix is singing softly, just for them. Dumbledore watches from the doorway. The most powerful magic in the world is not learned from books, children, he says quietly, though they're too young to understand the words. It is not won through conquest. It is freely given by those who love you before they even know who you will become. Tonight, you 3 taught me that again. He will tell them this story years later when they ask about their first night. For now, he simply sits with them, listening to Fawkes sing, and thinks, Ariana, Lily, James, I could not save you, but perhaps by saving them, I can honor your memory. Perhaps this is my redemption. The restricted section of the Hogwarts library is not typically a place for toddlers, but the headmaster's children are not typical toddlers. Dumbledore sits in a large armchair, 3 small children arranged around him. Harry on his left, Ron on his right, Hermione on his lap. In his hands, a book written entirely in runes. This, Dumbledore says, pointing to the first symbol, is Fehu. It means cattle, wealth, abundance. But more than that, it represents the beginning, the first step of any journey. Hermione leans forward, studying the symbol intensely. At 3, she's already showing in remarkable memory. Draw, she demands, holding out her hand. Dumbledore conjures a piece of chalk. She takes it and carefully copies the rune on the floor. It's wobbly, but recognizable. Excellent, my dear. Harry? He's staring at the rune with his head tilted, like he's listening to something Dumbledore can't hear. It feels warm, Harry says. Warm? Dumbledore's eyes widen. You're sensing the rune's magical resonance. Remarkable. Different learning styles, Dumbledore murmurs to himself. Hermione learns through repetition and practice. Harry through sensation and empathy. Ron through Ronald, we're learning to read. Ron yawns. Why? Because reading unlocks every door in the world. I'd rather play Exploding Snap. You're 3. You don't know how to play Exploding Snap. Then teach me that instead. Dumbledore chuckles. Very well. A bargain. Learn 10 runes, and I'll teach you Exploding Snap. Ron's eyes light up. Deal. By age 4, all 3 can read runic alphabets fluently. Dumbledore's teaching philosophy. Learn the bones of magic first. The skeleton. Then the flesh makes sense. They read Tales of Beetle the Bard in the original Anglo-Saxon runes. Hermione reads it analytically, asking questions about why certain words were chosen, what the moral of each story means. Ron memorizes the stories through repetition, then acts them out with enthusiasm. His dramatic reading of Babbity Rabbity makes Dumbledore laugh until he cries. Harry reads the emotional resonance of each tale. The Three Brothers is sad, he announces after the first reading. They were scared of dying. Yes, Dumbledore says quietly. They were. And that fear led them to make choices they later regretted. Remember that, Harry? Fear is a poor counselor. Dumbledore has been planning this for months. He's tracked down portraits, negotiated with their current owners, called in favors from across Britain. Now the children's classroom, formerly the headmaster's meeting room, contains 4 new portraits. Rowena Ravenclaw, stern, brilliant, with eyes that miss nothing. Godric Gryffindor, broad-shouldered, bearded, with a sword at his hip. Helga Hufflepuff, kind-faced, warm, with a badger sleeping at her feet. Salazar Slytherin, sharp-featured, calculating, watching them with unconcealed interest. Children, Dumbledore announces, meet your new teachers. Hermione's mouth falls open. The founders, the actual founders, they've agreed to instruct you in their particular areas of expertise. Rowena speaks first, her voice crisp. The girl. Hermione, come here. Hermione approaches nervously. I'm told you have questions about everything. Good. Questions are the foundation of wisdom. I shall teach you logic, philosophy, and the art of questioning even your own assumptions. Beginning now, why do you think magic works? Hermione blinks. Because wizards cast spells? Insufficient. How do spells work? What is the mechanism? Don't guess. Research. You have a library. Use it. Return when you have a hypothesis. Hermione runs off immediately. Godric laughs. She'll spend a week on that question. Rowena always did love impossible assignments. He looks at Harry and Ron. You two, ever held a sword? Then you'll start with sticks. The principles are the same. Come, show me your stance. Ron picks up a wooden practice sword eagerly, Harry more hesitantly. Dueling is not about strength, Godric says. It's about courage, the courage to act despite fear. Ron, you charge in without thinking. That's brave but foolish. Harry, you hesitate. That's careful but fear-driven. Both of you must find the balance. Helga observes them all with gentle eyes. And what of loyalty? Do you 3 understand what it means to stand by someone even when it's difficult? Always, Harry adds. Easy to say when you're young and everything is shared. Wait until you want different things. Wait until one of you makes a mistake that hurts the others. Will you stand by each other then? They don't have an answer. Good, Helga says. Honesty is the first step. I will teach you about loyalty magic, why it is the most underestimated power in the wizarding world. But not today. Today, go play. You're 5 years old. That's important too. Salazar has remained silent, watching. Finally, Dumbledore, you brought them to me. Why? Ambition without bigotry. You can teach them that. Can I, or will you stop me the moment I suggest anything you deem too dark? I will trust you to remember that these children are innocent, and that corrupting innocence is beneath even you. Salazar smiles thinly. Very well. Children, especially you, Harry Potter, I have a question. What do you want? Not what Dumbledore wants for you. What do you want? Why my parents died? Honest. Good. Ambition begins with desire. We'll work on turning your desires into goals, and then into reality. Over the next year, the founders become a constant presence. Rowena pushes Hermione intellectually until the girl cries from frustration, then teaches her that frustration is just the feeling of growth. Godric drills Harry and Ron in dueling theory, emphasizing honor and courage, but also practical tactics. Helga teaches them all to bake together. Magic makes it easier, explaining that working toward a shared goal builds bonds that battle cannot break. Salazar teaches them strategy, parsing out the difference between cunning, using your mind to outthink opponents, and cruelty, causing unnecessary harm for personal gain. Dumbledore watches these lessons, intervening only when necessary. One day he finds Harry alone with Salazar's portrait. Mr. Slytherin says you used to be friends with a dark wizard, Harry says without preamble. Dumbledore goes very still. Did he? He said you loved someone who turned bad. Is that true? Dumbledore sits down beside Harry. The boy is only 6, but his eyes are old. Yes, Harry. When I was young, I had a friend named Gellert Grindelwald. I loved him, and he became one of the darkest wizards in history. What happened? I learned that love is not enough to redeem someone who does not wish to be redeemed. I learned that sometimes you must fight those you love to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Did you stop loving him? No. But I loved the world more. Harry processes this. Professor, do you love us? Dumbledore's throat tightens. More than I thought possible, and that means we'll want to be the kind of people you can be proud of. This small child who somehow understands profound truths. You are already those people, Harry. All three of you. Ron is exploring. This is not unusual. Ron explores everything. The castle is a giant adventure to him, and he's determined to find every secret it holds. Today, he's in the restricted section while Dumbledore is teaching Harry and Hermione. He's not supposed to be here alone, but the door was unlocked. It wasn't. Ron has been practicing unlocking charms in secret. The books whisper to him. Some hiss, some moan. One calls to him in a voice like silk. Secrets, I hold secrets. Ron follows the voice to a shelf marked, Extremely Dangerous, Headmaster Permission Required. He pulls out a black book with silver lettering, Secrets of the Darkest Arts. Opens it. The first page shows a photograph of a wizard casting green light from his wand. The caption, The Killing Curse, Instant Death. Ron's eyes widen. Fascinating, isn't it? Ron jumps. Dumbledore is standing behind him. Ron expects anger, punishment. Instead, Dumbledore sits down on the floor, gestures for Ron to sit beside him. Why did this book call to you, Ron? The title. It said secrets. I want to know secrets. Why do you want to know secrets, Ron thinks. Because everyone's always treating us like we're special, but they don't tell us why. They don't tell us the truth about anything dangerous. I'm tired of being protected. Dumbledore nods slowly. That's a fair frustration. Let me tell you the secret of this book then. Shows Ron an illustration of the Cruciatus Curse. This book was written by a wizard who believed power mattered more than love. He learned every dark spell imaginable. He could kill with a whisper, torture with a thought. And do you know what happened to him? He became invincible. He died alone, unmourned, in a room much like this one. His name is not even remembered. This is the secret, Ron. Dark magic will give you power over others, but it steals your power over yourself. It makes you a slave to your own cruelty. Is that a trade you wish to make? Ron looks at the book, at the spells that promise power, thinks about Harry and Hermione, about Dumbledore, about the portraits of the founders who have taught him to be brave and clever and loyal. No, sir, I want to be strong enough to protect people. If I'm alone, there's no one to protect. Then you already know a secret greater than anything in this book. Dumbledore stands, offers his hand. Come, let me show you a different kind of power. He leads Ron to his office, points to Fawkes. Phoenix fire can destroy a basilisk. Phoenix tears can heal mortal wounds. Phoenix song can drive away dementors. And yet, Fawkes has never attacked anyone, never harmed a living thing. His power comes not from violence, but from purity. That, Ron, is the power I want you to seek. Not the power to destroy, but the power to protect. Ron watches Fawkes. The phoenix regards him with ancient eyes, then trills softly. I understand, Ron says. Good. Now, as punishment for entering the restricted section without permission, you will help Madam Pince reorganize the library's card catalog, manually, without magic. That'll take weeks, 3 weeks I estimate. Perhaps you'll learn that some secrets are worth the wait. But Dumbledore is smiling, because Ron learned the most important lesson. Power without wisdom is worthless. Hermione is frustrated. She's trying to read a book about ancient runes, but parts of the text are written in invisible ink that only reveals itself under moonlight. Problem? It's noon. She's tried Lumos, creates light but doesn't reveal ink. Revelio reveals hidden objects but not invisible ink. Specialist Revelio reveals magical properties but not the content. Nothing works. Harry finds her in the library, surrounded by failed attempts. What are you doing, trying to read this stupid book? But half of it's invisible. Can't you just wait for nighttime? I don't want to wait. Hermione's hair is practically standing on end with frustration. There has to be a way, she thinks. Paces, mutters to herself. Lumos creates light, but it's just light. What if I make it specifically reveal invisible ink? She raises her wand, focuses on her intent. Light that shows hidden things. Light that reveals truth. Lumos revelatio. The light that emerges is different, silver instead of white, with a faint shimmer. Where it touches the book's pages, words appear, invisible ink made visible. Hermione gasps. I did it. I actually did it. She runs to find Dumbledore, the book clutched to her chest. Professor. Dumbledore is in his office with Harry and Ron, teaching them about transfiguration theory. Hermione bursts in. "I created a new spell." Dumbledore's eyes widen. "Show me," she demonstrates. The silver light, the revealed text. Dumbledore's eyes fill with tears. "Hermione, do you understand what you've just done?" "I modified Lumos. You created new magic. You saw a problem, understood the underlying principles of existing spells, and innovated a solution. You are 7 years old, and you have just done what most wizards never accomplish in their entire lives." "Really? Really? You are not merely a student of magic, my dear. You are its partner in creation." Hermione beams. Harry and Ron crowd around. "Can you teach us?" "It's not that hard. You just have to think about what you want the light to do, and then—" She tries to teach them. Harry gets it on the third attempt. His empathic magic understands intent easily. Ron struggles for a week before managing it. He needs to physically practice movements before they stick. And Dumbledore watches them teach each other, hearts swelling with pride. A library is not a treasure hoard to be guarded jealously, he thinks. It is a garden to be tended and shared. Every book is a seed. Every reader is a gardener. And you three, you are not here to simply read the words of the past. You are here to write the future. That night he adds a new entry to his journal. Today, Hermione created original magic. Harry and Ron learned from her. They do not compete, they collaborate. This is what I could never teach James and Sirius and Remus and Peter, that friendship is not about individual glory, but about lifting each other higher. Perhaps this time I'm doing something right. The room of requirement has configured itself as a vast garden. Floating orbs of different colors drift through the air like soap bubbles, each representing a different magical intention. Red orbs, willpower and force. Blue orbs, tranquility and control. Gold orbs, memory and connection. Green orbs, growth and life. Dumbledore stands at the center with Harry, Ron, and Hermione, all age 8. Traditional magical education, Dumbledore says, teaches that you receive your wand at age 11, learn spells, and practice until proficient. But I ask you, is the wand the source of magic? The wand is a focus. Magic comes from the wizard. Precisely. Today you will learn to touch magic directly, without wands, without words, simply through intent. He gestures to the floating orbs. Each orb represents a type of magical energy. Your task, move them without your hands, feel what each wants to teach you. Reaches out with his mind instead of his hand. The orb drifts toward him immediately like it's been waiting. Ron stares at a red orb, frowning. How am I supposed to feel it? Magic responds to certainty, not contemplation. Hermione is already creating diagrams in her head, calculating angles, mental states, theoretical magical flow patterns. She focuses on a blue orb with intense concentration. Nothing happens. Ron has been struggling for 3 weeks. Every day he comes to the garden, stares at the orbs, tries to feel whatever Harry feels, calculate whatever Hermione calculates. Nothing works. On day 21, he's had enough. "Move!" he shouts at a red orb, his voice cracking with frustration. The orb explodes. Fragments of red light scatter across the garden, then dissipate. Dumbledore appears from the shadows where he's been observing. "Interesting. I'm sorry, Professor. I didn't mean to—" "You didn't ask the orb to move. You commanded it. That's not wrong, Ronald. That's simply your nature. Magic responds to different voices differently. Some wizards request, you demand. Now, learn to demand with precision instead of rage." Ron tries again, focuses on a red orb, doesn't ask, commands, "Come here." His voice is firm, certain. The orb floats to him, controlled and steady. "Yes," Ron punches the air. Over the next months, Ron develops his unique wandless style, short, forceful bursts of magic activated by voice commands. By age 9, he can summon objects across the room with a single word. Dumbledore notes in his journal, Ronald's magic is verbal and commanding. He doesn't negotiate with magic, he directs it. Like a general on a battlefield. Fascinating. Hermione is in the garden alone at midnight. She's been trying for 8 weeks to move the orbs, following every theory, every calculation, every logical step. Failure after failure. Tonight she's not trying. She's given up. She sits on the grass, staring at a blue orb floating nearby, and simply plays with it in her imagination, not trying to control it, just wondering what it would look like if it were a flower. The orb blooms. Petals of blue light unfurl from its center, creating a magical flower suspended in air. Hermione gasps, reaches out, and the flower dissolves back into an orb. No, wait. Gets frustrated, takes a breath, tries again without thinking, just feeling. The flower blooms again. Dumbledore, watching from the doorway, smiles. There it is, the moment when the mind remembers it has a heart. Hermione jumps. Professor, I didn't know you were... What did you do differently just now? I stopped trying to force it. I just played. Exactly. Magic is not a formula to be solved, Hermione. It is a partner to be danced with. Your brilliant mind wants to control every variable. But some things cannot be controlled, only experienced. Over the next months, Hermione develops her unique wandless style. Complex layered spells she can maintain for hours through sheer concentration. She learns to weave multiple effects together, creating magical constructs of stunning complexity. Dumbledore notes, Hermione's magic is architectural. She builds spells the way others build cathedrals, with precision, patience, and profound understanding of structure. Harry approaches the silver orb, memory and connection, on his first day in the garden. He doesn't try to move it, just reaches out with his feelings. The orb responds immediately. But it doesn't just move toward Harry, it synchronizes with him. Suddenly, all 5 orbs, red, blue, gold, silver, green, orbit Harry like planets around a sun. He's not controlling them. They're dancing with him, responding to his emotional state. When he feels happy, they spin faster. When he's calm, they slow. When he's curious, they form patterns. Dumbledore intervenes immediately, waving his wand to sever the connection. The orbs scatter. Harry blinks, disoriented. What happened? Come with me. In Dumbledore's office, the headmaster paces, unusually agitated. Harry, you have a gift for connection magic that I have never seen in any wizard. You can feel what others feel, synchronize with magical objects, create sympathetic bonds. This is extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily powerful. That's good, right? It can be. But it also makes you vulnerable. That gift for connection, it can be exploited. There are things, dark things, that might try to connect to you in return. You must be careful. You must learn to control when you open yourself to connection and when you shield. Harry doesn't understand everything, but he hears the fear in Dumbledore's voice. Is this about my scar? Harry touches his forehead. Is this about the piece of Voldemort you told me lives here? You remember that conversation? You told me when I was 6. You said there's a piece of his soul attached to me, that you're researching how to remove it. And your connection magic, it could potentially strengthen that link. We must be very, very careful. Over the next months, Harry develops his unique wandless style. Sympathetic magic. He can feel what others feel and use that to predict magical movements, harmonize his spells with others, create resonance effects, but he learns shielding too, how to close himself off when needed, how to protect his own mind and soul. Dumbledore notes, Harry's gift is beautiful and dangerous in equal measure. The horcrux makes him vulnerable to manipulation through emotional connection. I must teach him to be open and guarded simultaneously, the hardest balance any wizard can achieve. Dumbledore hosts a private dinner for the Hogwarts staff. McGonagall, Flitwick, Sprout, and Snape, reluctant but present, gather in a private room. I wanted to show you, Dumbledore says, why these children must remain under our protection, why their education cannot be delayed or modified to fit traditional standards. The trio enters. They're 8 years old, wearing matching robes Dumbledore commissioned. Children, Dumbledore says gently, would you demonstrate what you've learned? Ron steps forward, points at 3 cups of water on the table. Come, he commands. The cups levitate and float to him in perfect formation. Pour, he says. The water streams from the cups, forming 3 spirals in the air. Hermione raises her hands. The water freezes mid-air, transforming into intricate ice sculptures. A phoenix, a lion, a badger. Harry closes his eyes. The sculptures begin to move. The phoenix spreads its wings, the lion prowls, the badger waddles, all in perfect rhythm to music only Harry can hear. The staff stares in stunned silence. McGonagall's whisper, Albus, they're 8 years old. They are the future, Dumbledore says quietly, and they are why Voldemort must never rise again, because if he does, he will face not 1 prophesied child, but 3 who have been trained since infancy in magic he cannot comprehend. No, Severus. I'm creating protectors. There's a difference. Is there? You're training children for war. I'm training children to survive war, because war is coming whether we wish it or not. The children bow and leave. Flitwick is the first to speak after they've gone. That level of wandless magic at their age, it shouldn't be possible. And yet, Dumbledore says, it is, because they learned magic not as a subject to be studied, but as an extension of themselves. They learned before they could doubt, before they could fear, before anyone told them what was impossible. McGonagall looks at Dumbledore seriously. You realize the Ministry will eventually demand to inspect their education. They will find 3 children who are brilliant, well-adjusted, and morally grounded. They will find nothing to object to. Unless they object to children who are more powerful than most adults, then we'll deal with that when it comes. But privately, Dumbledore worries, because Minerva is right. The Ministry won't like this. Won't like children who don't fit their carefully regulated system. That battle will come. But for now, the children are safe, learning, growing together. The Great Hall buzzes with speculation. For 10 years, students have whispered about the headmaster's orphans, the 3 children who live in the tower, who are never seen, who learn magic directly from Dumbledore himself. Rumors have built them into legends. They can cast wandless magic, dash-level spells. Potter's scar glows when dark magic is near. The Granger girl can read minds. Weasley can command objects with his voice. Tonight, the legends become real. Professor McGonagall stands at the front of the hall, the Sorting Hat resting on a stool beside her. But before she begins the traditional entrance of first years through the main doors, Dumbledore rises. Before we begin the sorting, he says, his voice magically amplified, I have an announcement. 3 students will be joining us tonight who have been preparing for this moment in unconventional ways. The hall goes silent. May I present Harry Potter, Ronald Weasley, and Hermione Granger. A door behind the staff table opens. 3 children step out. Harry Potter, slight build, messy black hair, green eyes that scan the room with quiet intensity. A lightning bolt scar barely visible under his fringe. He walks with calm confidence. Ron Weasley, tall for 11, red hair freckles across his nose, calluses on his hands from practicing wand grips without a wand. He walks with an easy stride, protective beside Harry. Hermione Granger, bushy brown hair pulled back with a clip, carrying herself with perfect posture. She holds a book even now, Hogwarts a History. Her eyes dart everywhere, cataloging details. They walk down the center aisle together. Every student stares. The whispers start immediately. That's really him? The boy who lived? Look at his scar. McGonagall gestures to 3 stools she's conjured. We'll sort you individually, she says. Harry Potter first. Harry sits. McGonagall places the hat on his head. It's far too large. It slips down over his eyes. Inside his mind, a voice speaks, Hat. Ah, I've been wondering about you 3 for a decade. You're already sorted, you know, sorted by a headmaster who's wiser than I. Harry, thinking, then why this ceremony? Hat. Because the school needs to accept you, not just Dumbledore. So, where do you want to go? Harry, wherever keeps us together. Hat. Interesting. Not wherever I belong, but wherever we belong. Very well, you have courage, certainly enough for Gryffindor. You have cunning, Slytherin would claim you. You have a brilliant mind, Ravenclaw would treasure you. And loyalty, Hufflepuff would welcome you. But what you value most is unity. And for that, Hat, aloud, Gryffindor. The Gryffindor table erupts in cheers, but it's nervous energy. They don't know what to expect from these children. Harry walks to the table, sits near the end. Ronald Weasley, Hat, immediately barely touching his head. I know your type. Brave, loyal, with a strategic mind hiding under all that casual confidence. And you've already decided where you're going, haven't you? Ron, wherever Harry and Hermione are. Hat, Gryffindor. Even faster than Harry. The table cheers again. Ron joins Harry on the bench, grinning. Hermione Granger. Hermione sits back straight, trying not to look nervous. Hat, brilliant mind. Insatiable thirst for knowledge. Ravenclaw is calling your name, child. You would thrive there. Hermione. My friends are in Gryffindor. Hat, loyalty over learning. Hermione, learning is important. But so is loyalty. I want to be with Harry and Ron. Hat, brave and loyal, and willing to choose your family over your personal glory. Very well, Gryffindor. She joins them. The three sit together, a united front. The Gryffindor table is celebrating, but the rest of the hall is in shock. At the Slytherin table, Draco Malfoy leans to his friend. Potter's in Gryffindor? Father said he'd definitely be in Slytherin. At the Ravenclaw table, Granger should have been ours. Did you see how she was already reading during the ceremony? The sorting continues with the other first years, but everyone is still watching the trio. Fred and George Weasley, third years, slide down the bench toward Ron. So, Fred says, "You're the famous trio," George continues. Ron Weasley. Any relation? Fred asks. Ron blinks. You're Weasleys too? Distant cousins, George says. Your dad, Arthur, and our dad were second cousins, we think. Family tree's a mess. We've heard stories about you three, Fred says, grinning. Wandless magic at age 8? Sure it is, George winks. We also heard Potter here helped Flitwick redesign the cheering charm. Harry's eyes widen. How did you... Hogwarts has portraits, Fred explains. Portraits, gossip. Also, we're brilliant investigators, George adds. Mostly we eavesdrop, Fred admits. Despite themselves, the trio smiles. These two might be trouble, but they're also clearly friendly. The feast begins. Dumbledore makes his usual announcements, though he watches the trio with concerned eyes. He knows this won't be easy for them, being integrated with peers after 10 years of isolation. But they need this, need to be part of something larger than themselves. The common room empties slowly. Most first years head to bed exhausted from the excitement. The trio stays behind, sitting in armchairs near the fire. Feels weird, Ron says. Having roommates who aren't you two. We're still together, Hermione says. Just with other people now. Is that good or bad? Harry asks. Hermione considers. It's different. Ron, I vote we stick together anyway. Study together, eat together, hex anyone who tries to separate us together. Hermione, we can't hex other students, Ron. Ron, fine. Mild jinxes. Harry laughs. It's the first genuine laugh since they left Dumbledore's quarters that morning. They sit together, watching the fire, feeling the weight of change, but also the comfort of continuity. They're in a new world now, but they have each other, and for the moment, that's enough. Dumbledore sits alone, staring into the pensieve. He's reviewing memories of the day, watching the children walk into the hall, seeing them sorted, observing their interactions. Fawkes trills softly from his perch. I know, Dumbledore says. I'm worrying needlessly. They're strong, they're ready. But he can't shake the feeling that he's releasing them into a world that won't understand them, won't appreciate how special they are, won't protect them the way he has. Being extraordinary is not their burden to carry, he reminds himself, repeating words he told them earlier. It is simply a fact, like having brown eyes or red hair. What they do with that extraordinary nature, whether they use it to divide themselves from others or to lift others up, that is their true test. He watches the memory one more time. 3 children, walking together, united. And I have every confidence, he whispers, that they will choose wisely. Dumbledore summons the trio to his office on a quiet Sunday afternoon. They arrive together as always. Fawkes greets them with a soft trill. Children, Dumbledore begins. Settling into his chair, I need your help. They lean forward, attentive. Nicholas Flamel, an old friend, has entrusted me with an object of great power. I have hidden it within Hogwarts, protected by enchantments, but I fear someone may attempt to steal it. What is it? Hermione asks. The Philosopher's Stone. It grants immortality and unlimited wealth. In the wrong hands, it could resurrect Lord Voldemort. Harry's hand goes unconsciously to his scar. Why not move it to Gringotts? Hermione continues. Because the thief, I suspect, would expect that, here, they must navigate protections they don't know exist. I want to bait them into revealing themselves. Ron catches on immediately. You want to trap them. But the protections must be genuine, dangerous enough that only someone truly determined would attempt them, and I need your help strengthening those protections. Over the next weeks, they work. Hermione redesigns the logic puzzle in the potion room. She creates a sequence that requires specific knowledge only she, Harry, Ron, and Dumbledore possess. Anyone else attempting it will be trapped. Ron works with McGonagall on the chess set. They enchant it to be adaptive, learning from each player, getting progressively harder. It'll be like facing 3 opponents at once, Ron explains proudly. Harry doesn't modify protections. Instead, he asks the uncomfortable question, Professor, what if someone gets past everything? He's looked into that mirror, seen his parents alive and smiling, understands it shows desire, not reality. The stone isn't actually there, is it? A perceptive question. What do you think? I think you'd never leave something that valuable in a place where students could accidentally find it. I think the whole thing is a trap from the beginning. The real stone has been with Nicholas in France for months. What lies beyond the mirror is merely bait. Harry's scar has been hurting around Professor Quirrell since September. Unlike canon, he doesn't hide this. He tells Dumbledore immediately. Describe the pain, Dumbledore says, concern etched on his face. Like something inside me recognizes something inside him. Like two magnets that shouldn't be near each other. Dumbledore's expression darkens. He casts diagnostic spells, complex ones, using the Elder Wand's power to pierce through protections. What he sees makes him go pale. Harry, I need to tell you something I had hoped to wait years to reveal. He gestures for Ron and Hermione to join them. You all should hear this together. They sit. Harry, you know about the horcrux, the piece of Voldemort's soul attached to your scar. What you don't know is that I've been researching how to remove it without harming you, and I believe I've made a breakthrough. He pulls out an ancient text. But first you must understand why your scar hurts around Quirrell. It's because Voldemort is possessing him. The piece of Voldemort in your scar resonates with Voldemort's presence in Quirrell's body. Hermione gasps. He's back? Not fully. He's a spirit, parasitic clinging to Quirrell's life force. But yes, Tom Riddle has returned in part. I've been planning for this. I know he'll attempt to steal the stone. And when he does, we'll be ready. No midnight dash, no children sneaking through protections. Instead, Dumbledore, the trio, and a squad of Aurors, called in quietly by Dumbledore using his authority as chief warlock, wait in the chamber beyond the mirror. They don't wait long. Quirrell appears, moving through the protections. Ron's chess set slows him, but doesn't stop him. He sacrifices his own pieces brutally. Hermione's logic puzzle traps him for 20 minutes before he brute forces through. Finally, he reaches the mirror chamber. Dumbledore, Harry, Ron, and Hermione step from the shadows. Good evening, Quirrell, Dumbledore says calmly. Quirrell freezes. Then his face twists, and a second voice emerges, high, cold, terrible. And your little apprentices. How touching. Voldemort's voice, Tom, Dumbledore says, I thought we might meet again like this. You knew I was here all along? Of course. Did you really think I wouldn't recognize possession when I saw it? I simply needed you to reveal yourself attempting theft. Now the Ministry has all the evidence needed. Voldemort screams through Quirrell, the stone, give me the stone. The stone was never here, Tom. It's been in Nicholas's vault in France for 3 months. This was merely bait. You fell for it spectacularly. Quirrell's body begins to fail, Voldemort's spirit burning through its host too quickly. This isn't over, Voldemort hisses. I will return, and when I do, I'll kill the boy first. His spirit tears free from Quirrell's collapsing body, a dark shadow that shrieks through the chamber and vanishes through the walls. The Aurors immediately secure Quirrell, unconscious but alive. Dumbledore turns to the trio. Are you three all right? They nod, though Harry is touching his scar. It's burning. The connection, Harry says. I felt him. In my head. I know. That's what we must address next. Come, we have much to discuss. In the hospital wing, after Quirrell has been taken to the Ministry, Dumbledore sits with the trio. Harry, you have a piece of Voldemort's soul in your scar. We've known this since you were 6. What you experienced tonight was that piece resonating with Voldemort's presence. It's dangerous. It creates a connection he could exploit. I've been researching for years. There's a ritual, extremely complex, requiring precise conditions. But I think we can separate the Horcrux from Harry's soul without harming him. Not yet. You're too young. The ritual requires a fully developed magical core. But by age 15 or 16, we should be able to attempt it safely. But you won't face it alone. Ron and Hermione will help you shield your mind. I'll teach you all advanced occlumency, mind protection that goes far beyond normal lessons. Ron speaks up. If there's one Horcrux, could there be more? An excellent question. And yes, I believe Tom made multiple Horcruxes. The diary you found last year, for instance. Wait, Hermione says. When did we find a diary? Dumbledore realizes he's jumped timelines. Forgive me, I'm getting ahead of myself. But yes, be vigilant. If Voldemort made one Horcrux, he likely made others. The dueling club is Professor Lockhart's idea. He's this year's defense teacher. Flamboyant, useless, but harmless. During a demonstration duel, Lockhart summons a snake to show creature combat. The snake, angry and confused, lunges toward Justin Finch Fletchley. Harry reacts instinctively. "Stop! Don't hurt him!" The snake stops, turns to Harry, hisses. Harry hisses back. The great hall goes silent. Harry realizes everyone is staring at him. "What? You were speaking Parseltongue," Hermione says quietly. "The language of snakes? So?" "Ron, who knows magical history? So Parseltongue is the mark of Salazar Slytherin. It's considered dark magic. People are going to think you're the heir of Slytherin," someone whispers. Dumbledore intervenes immediately. "Harry Potter is no more the heir of Slytherin than I am. Parseltongue is a rare gift, often associated with dark wizards, but not inherently dark itself. Harry learned this ability from the Horcrux fragment we've discussed. It is a side effect, not an indication of character. Avoid Harry in corridors, except Ron and Hermione, who stick by him fiercely. "Let them talk," Ron says. "We know who you are." Harry appreciates it, but he can't shake the feeling that the snake understood him in a way humans don't. That night he asks Dumbledore, "Is Parseltongue bad?" "Magic is never good or evil, Harry. Only the wizard wielding it. Parseltongue has been used by dark wizards, yes, but it has also been used by healers who communicated with magical snakes for venom harvesting, by researchers who studied serpent magic. The ability itself is neutral. What matters is your heart, and my heart is good. Your heart is one of the purest I've ever known." Messages appear on walls. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the heir, beware. Instead of investigating in secret, the trio brings evidence to Dumbledore immediately. Hermione's research on the Chamber of Secrets, Ron's theory about basilisk venom, based on the petrifications, Harry's ability to hear a voice in the walls, a snake's voice. "There's a basilisk in the school," Dumbledore confirms, "and someone is controlling it. But who?" They find Tom Riddle's diary in a girl's bathroom. Hermione discovers it, brings it to Dumbledore unopened. Dumbledore examines it, his hands shake. "Another piece," he whispers. "Another horcrux." "How many did he make?" Harry asks. "I don't know, but each one we find brings us closer to ensuring his final death." Dumbledore doesn't let anyone write in the diary. Instead, he uses diagnostic spells to communicate with it safely. The diary riddle reveals the chamber's location. Myrtle's bathroom. "We go together," Dumbledore says. "All of us. And we end this. No last-minute solo rescue. No children facing monsters alone." Dumbledore, the trio, and Lockhart, brought for his memory charm expertise in case things go wrong, descend into the chamber together. Harry speaks Parseltongue to open the entrance. They enter carefully. Inside, massive serpent statues, ancient architecture, and at the far end, the basilisk, coiled and waiting. "Close your eyes," Dumbledore shouts. Basilisk gaze is deadly. Then summons brilliant light, so intense it blinds the basilisk itself. Fawkes arrives, carrying the sorting hat. Harry pulls the sword of Gryffindor from the hat. But he doesn't fight alone. Ron uses wandless force magic to keep the basilisk disoriented, slamming it against walls, disrupting its movement. Hermione creates shield barriers, protecting everyone from falling debris. Harry delivers the killing blow, driving the sword through the basilisk's brain. Tom Riddle manifests from the diary, furious. "Impressive, but you're still children playing at war. And you are a memory of a boy who never grew up. Let me show you what growth looks like." He destroys the diary with basilisk venom, stabbing it repeatedly until the fragment of soul screams and dissolves. The chamber falls silent. Dumbledore gathers the children. "Do you understand what we just accomplished?" "We destroyed a horcrux," Hermione says. "We destroyed a horcrux together. In another timeline, one that might have been, Harry would have faced this alone, nearly died, been traumatized. But because we faced it as a unit, it was merely difficult. That is the lesson. There is no battle so terrible that unity cannot make it bearable." They emerge from the chamber together. Ginny Weasley, who had been briefly possessed by the diary before Dumbledore confiscated it, is waiting with McGonagall, safe and whole. That night in Dumbledore's office, the four of them sit around Fawkes's perch. 2 years, Dumbledore says. 2 years of threats faced, 2 horcruxes destroyed. "And you three have never once considered doing this alone. Why would we?" Ron asks. "We're stronger together. Many heroes believe they must face darkness alone, that solitude is the price of power. But you've taught me a greater truth. Heroes who fight alone may win battles, but heroes who fight together win wars. And more importantly, they survive to enjoy the peace that follows. He raises a cup of hot chocolate, their traditional post-crisis drink. To unity, to family, to the future we're building together. They drink. And for the first time in 2 years of magical education, they feel not like students, but like equals, partners in protecting the light. The Daily Prophet lands on the breakfast table with a heavy thud. Dumbledore picks it up, reads the headline, and his face goes pale. "What is it?" Harry asks, looking up from his eggs. Dumbledore shows them the front page. Sirius Black escapes Azkaban. Mass murderer at large ministry warns public. Hermione reads over Harry's shoulder. "Who's Sirius Black?" "Your father's best friend," Dumbledore says quietly, looking at Harry. "They were like brothers at Hogwarts, inseparable. When you were born, your parents made Sirius your godfather." "My godfather?" "Yes. But after your parents died, the Ministry accused Sirius of betraying them to Voldemort. They said he told Voldemort where James and Lily were hiding. Then, when another friend named Peter Pettigrew confronted him, Sirius allegedly killed Peter and 12 muggles with a single curse." Allegedly, Hermione catches the word choice immediately. Dumbledore hesitates. "I knew Sirius Black, not intimately, but I knew him through the Order of the Phoenix, and the man I knew loved James Potter more than his own life. I cannot reconcile that man with someone who would commit such betrayal." "So, you don't think he did it?" Harry asks. "I think something doesn't add up, but the Ministry is convinced. They've issued warnings. They believe Sirius is coming for you, Harry. The Ministry's theory is that he wants to finish what Voldemort started, kill the boy who lived, and prove his loyalty to his fallen master." Harry processes this. His godfather, his father's best friend, possibly innocent. Possibly coming to kill him. "What do we do?" Ron asks. "We investigate." Hermione says immediately, "If Sirius Black never had a trial, if the evidence doesn't add up, then we find the truth." Dumbledore looks at her with pride. "Precisely what I was thinking, my dear. But carefully. Very carefully." Over the next weeks, Hermione dives into wizarding law texts. She reads trial transcripts, precedents, emergency wartime powers. On a rainy afternoon in late August, she bursts into Dumbledore's office. "Professor, Sirius Black never had a trial." Dumbledore looks up from his paperwork. "Explain." "He was sent to Azkaban under Barty Crouch Sr.'s emergency wartime powers. Those powers allowed immediate imprisonment without trial for suspected Death Eaters. But Professor, the war ended in 1981, which means those powers expired, which means his imprisonment is technically illegal." Dumbledore's eyes light up. "My dear, you may have just found the key to freeing an innocent man." "If he's innocent," Hermione adds carefully. "Yes, if he's innocent, but that's what a trial would determine, wouldn't it?" Ron leans forward. "So we petition for a trial, force the Ministry to actually present evidence." "Exactly. And I, as Chief Warlock of the Wesingdemote, have the authority to file such a petition." Dumbledore pulls out parchment and begins writing. This will not be popular. Fudge will resist. But justice delayed is justice denied. Harry watches him write. "And if Sirius really did betray my parents, but if he didn't, Harry, then you have family you've never known. A godfather who loved you before you could speak. That possibility is worth fighting for." The Ministry erupts in chaos. Fudge calls it opening old wounds. Rita Skeeter writes articles questioning Dumbledore's judgment. But Dumbledore has public support. He frames it as ensuring justice for all, even the accused. The trial is scheduled for December 1993. But first, they need to find Peter Pettigrew. Ron is in the common room, studying Transfiguration, when his cousin Percy walks past carrying a rat. "Still got scabbers?" Ron asks absently. Percy stops. Of course. He's been in the family for 12 years. Excellent rat. 12 years, Ron's brain catches on that number. He looks at Scabbers more carefully. The rat is missing a toe. Looks old, mangy, nervous. That night, Ron pulls Harry and Hermione aside. "Remember what Dumbledore said about Peter Pettigrew? That he was an animagus? Since before I was even born. Since right after my parents died." Hermione's eyes widen. "You think Percy's rat is Peter Pettigrew?" "I think we need to find out." They bring their suspicions to Dumbledore. He listens carefully. "We cannot simply accuse Percy's pet without proof. We need certainty. Hermione, do you remember reading about detection methods for animagi? There's a potion. Animagus Revelation Potion. It makes unregistered animagi glow blue when exposed to it. Can you brew it? I'd need help. It's NEWT level. I'll make it clear this is my request. Snape is not happy about helping students brew advanced potions, but he obeys Dumbledore's directive. 2 weeks later, Hermione has a vial of shimmering blue liquid. The trap is set at dinner. Hermione accidentally stumbles near Percy, spilling the potion across the table where Scabbers sits. The rat begins to glow brilliant blue. Percy gasps. What did you do to Scabbers? But Scabbers is already running, not toward safety, toward the exit. The castle knows something is wrong. Staircases shift, blocking the rat's escape routes. Passages seal, doors lock. Scabbers is cornered in a corridor outside the Great Hall. Dumbledore approaches, wand raised. Reveal yourself, Peter. The rat transforms. A small, balding man with watery eyes appears where Scabbers was. Peter Pettigrew. The students who followed gasp. Professors arrive quickly. Hello, Albus, Peter says with a nervous smile. Wonderful to see you after all these years. You've been alive this entire time. McGonagall's voice shakes with rage. Hiding as a rat while Sirius rotted in Azkaban. I had to hide. Voldemort's supporters were looking for me. I had no choice. You always have a choice, Dumbledore says coldly. And you chose cowardice. Multiple times you will face justice for those choices. Peter tries to transform again. Dumbledore hits him with a spell that prevents an Animagus transformation. Aurors are summoned. Peter Pettigrew is taken into custody. Harry watches the man who betrayed his parents being dragged away in chains. He feels nothing, no satisfaction, no anger, just emptiness. Ron puts a hand on his shoulder. We got him. The Wizengamot chamber is packed. Sirius Black is brought in. 12 years in Azkaban have destroyed him. He's gaunt, wild-eyed, his prison robes hanging off a skeletal frame. He sees Dumbledore first, then his eyes land on Harry. Sirius stops breathing. James, he whispers, his voice cracked from disuse. Harry, coached by Dumbledore beforehand, speaks gently. No, sir, I'm Harry. James was my father. You look just like him, but you have Lily's eyes. Oh, Merlin, you have her eyes. The trial begins. Peter Pettigrew, under Veritaserum, confesses everything. How he was the secret keeper, how he betrayed the Potters, how he faked his death and framed Sirius. Memories are extracted and displayed. The conversation where the Potters changed secret keepers from Sirius to Peter. Peter's meeting with Voldemort. The street explosion. The evidence is overwhelming. The Wizengamot votes, 47 in favor of exoneration, 3 against. Sirius Black is freed. He collapses in the chair, sobbing, not from joy, from the weight of 12 years of anguish finally lifting. Dumbledore approaches him after the chamber clears. Sirius, you're free, but you're not well. Will you allow me to help you heal? With his siblings, I've raised him with 2 others, Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. They're his family now. Sirius's face crumples. I should have raised him. I was his godfather. It should have been me. You were in Azkaban. You couldn't have. But you can be part of his life now, if you're willing to heal first. Sirius nods shakily. Dumbledore gives Sirius quarters in Hogwarts adjacent to his own office. The first weeks are hard. Sirius has nightmares, flashbacks, moments where he doesn't recognize where he is. But slowly he stabilizes. Harry visits him daily. At first, the conversations are stilted. Tell me about my dad, Harry asks one afternoon. Sirius's eyes light up. James was brilliant. Arrogant as hell, but brilliant. He could transform into a stag at 15. We called him Prongs. Prongs? His animagus form. I was Padfoot, a dog. We had a whole group, the Marauders. James, me, Remus Lupin, and Peter. His face darkens at the last name. Peter betrayed you all. He did, but I should have seen it. Should have known he was weak. Should have protected James better. You couldn't have known. I should have. Sirius's voice breaks. James trusted me to keep him safe, and I failed. Harry doesn't know what to say, so he just sits with Sirius, letting him grieve. Over time, Sirius meets Ron and Hermione properly. Ron treats him with easy familiarity. So you're Harry's godfather? That makes you Uncle Padfoot, right? Brilliant. Can you teach us advanced defensive magic? Harry says you were in the Order of the Phoenix. Despite himself, Sirius smiles. I can teach you, if Dumbledore approves. Hermione approaches Sirius with characteristic directness. Professor Dumbledore says you and Harry's father invented several spells. Is that true? We modified existing spells mostly, made them more practical for combat. Could you teach us the theory? I'd like to understand spell modification. Sirius looks at these two children who treat Harry like family, who are brilliant and brave and loyal. You two raised him well, Sirius says to them one day. We didn't raise him, Ron says, confused. Dumbledore did. No, you've been his brothers, his sister. That's different from a guardian. That's family by choice. Thank you for that. Hermione's eyes water. He's our brother. We'd do anything for him. I know. I can see it. In January, Dumbledore arranges for Remus Lupin to visit Hogwarts. Sirius and Remus see each other for the first time in 12 years. They don't speak, just embrace, both crying. Later, over tea in Dumbledore's office, Sirius, I'm sorry, Moony. I suspected you. I thought you might be the spy. Remus, I thought you were the killer. I believed the worst of you. I should have fought harder for a trial. We both failed each other. Can we move past it? Sirius looks at his oldest surviving friend. We have to. James and Lily are gone. Peter's in Azkaban. We're all that's left of the Marauders. We have to be better. They shake hands, then embrace again. Harry, watching from the doorway with Ron and Hermione, asks Dumbledore quietly, will they be okay? In time, healing isn't linear, Harry. It's messy and painful. But they have each other now. That's what matters. In June, before the school year ends, Sirius gives Harry a gift, a small mirror. Your dad and I use these at Hogwarts. Two-way mirrors. You speak into one, your voice appears in the other. I have the matching mirror. Anytime you need me, just call my name. I'll answer. Harry holds the mirror carefully. What if I need you just to talk, not for emergencies? Then you call anyway. That's what godfathers are for. I've never had a godfather before, and I've never had a godson I could actually talk to. We'll figure it out together. That night, Harry tests the mirror in his dormitory. Sirius? Sirius's face appears in the glass, smiling. Hello, Harry. It works. Of course it works. Marauder magic never fails. Ron's terrible jokes. When Harry finally says goodnight, he realizes something. He saved Sirius, and in doing so, he saved a piece of his father's memory. The goblet of fire sits in the great hall, flames dancing blue. Students from 3 schools gather around it, Durmstrang, Beau's Batons, Hogwarts. The Triwizard Tournament has been announced with new rules. Dumbledore stands before the goblet. This year, we're introducing an experimental category. In addition to individual champions, we will accept team entries. 3 students working as one unit. The hall murmurs with interest. I am entering one such team, Dumbledore continues. The Hogwarts apprentices, Harry Potter, Ronald Weasley, and Hermione Granger. He drops a single piece of parchment into the goblet. The flames turn red briefly, then blue again. The goblet has accepted the entry. But before anyone can react, the goblet spits out another parchment. Dumbledore catches it. His face darkens. Harry Potter. The hall goes silent. Harry stands up. I didn't enter separately. I know you didn't. Someone else did. This is sabotage. Every professor examines the goblet's enchantments. They find evidence of tampering, a confundus charm powerful enough to convince the goblet that 4 schools were competing instead of 3. The culprit isn't immediately found, but suspicion falls on the new defense against the dark arts teacher, Mad-Eye Moody. Dumbledore watches Moody carefully over the coming weeks. The judges debate for days. Should Harry compete alone or with his team? Dumbledore's argument wins. The goblet accepted both entries. Harry may compete with his team's support, but he must face certain challenges solo to satisfy the magical contract binding him. The tasks are redesigned accordingly. The first task arrives. Dragons. Harry draws the Hungarian horntail, the most dangerous breed. But he's not unprepared. Ron and Hermione have spent weeks coaching him. Dragons are territorial, Ron explains, repeating lessons from his cousin Charlie. They're not inherently aggressive toward humans unless we threaten their eggs. Negotiate. Harry enters the enclosure alone. The horntail roars, breathing fire that scorches the ground. Harry doesn't run, doesn't reach for his wand. Instead, he speaks, not in English, in parcel tongue. The ancient language of serpents translates across species to some degree. The horntail doesn't understand words, but she understands intent. I don't want your eggs. I want the fake one. The golden one. You can keep your real children safe. I just need to complete my task. Harry slowly approaches the golden egg sitting among her real eggs. She doesn't attack, just watches. He takes the golden egg, backs away slowly. The horntail settles back over her nest, satisfied. The crowd erupts in confusion. The judges argue whether this counts as cheating. Ludo Bagman, the task was to retrieve the egg. He retrieved it. Where's the spectacle? Dumbledore, the task required retrieving the egg. It did not specify method. Harry chose intelligence over violence. That should be rewarded, not penalized. Final scores: 9 from Dumbledore, 7 from Madame Maxime, 6 from Bagman, 4 from Karkaroff. Harry doesn't care about the scores. He completed the task without harming the dragon. That night, Sirius calls through the mirror. "You brilliant boy, your father would be so proud." The second task is modified to be a team challenge. All 3 must enter the lake and rescue something precious. They use gillyweed, dive into the freezing water. What they find at the bottom makes Harry's heart stop. 4 figures are chained to the Merpeople's village statue. Not students, not children. Sirius Black and Remus Lupin, bound and unconscious. The tournament has escalated. They're targeting family bonds now. Harry swims to Sirius immediately. Hermione heads for Remus. Ron provides cover, using wandless magic to push back curious Grindylows. But there's a complication. The Merpeople leader approaches, speaking in Mermish. "You may take your own hostages only. Leave the others." Hermione understands Mermish from her reading. They're all ours. They're all family. The rules state 1 hostage per champion. Then we break the rules. Ron uses his command magic. Release them. All of them. His voice carries the force of absolute certainty. The magical compulsion in it makes the chains shudder. The Merpeople, recognizing power when they hear it, comply. Harry and Hermione free Sirius and Remus. Ron helps them swim upward. They surface together, all 5 of them, within the time limit. The judges argue again. Karkaroff, they were only supposed to rescue their designated hostages. Dumbledore, they were presented with 4 people in danger. They saved all 4. That demonstrates not just skill, but moral courage. I give them maximum points. The crowd cheers. Even students from other schools appreciate the audacity. That night, Sirius and Remus both thank the trio. "You didn't have to save both of us," Remus says. "Yes, we did," Harry replies simply. "You're family. We don't leave family behind." The maze. Harry enters alone as required by the binding magical contract. But he wears a charmed bracelet that transmits what he sees to Ron and Hermione, who watch from a scrying bowl in a secure room. They can communicate with him through the charm. The maze is alive. It adapts to his fears. He faces Dementors created by boggarts. Harry's Patronus drives them back. He faces a sphinx that asks riddles. Hermione feeds him the answer through the charm. He faces an enchanted fog that disorients. Ron's voice guides him through. Left. Know your other left. Straight ahead now. Finally, he reaches the center. The Triwizard Cup gleams on a pedestal. Harry reaches for it. The world spins. He lands in a graveyard. Tombstones everywhere. A massive yew tree. And in the shadows, a figure carrying something wrapped in cloth. The figure steps forward. It's Moody. Except his face is melting, changing. Polyjuice potion wearing off. Beneath Moody's appearance, a younger man with a twisted face. "Barty Crouch Jr., the man says with a manic grin. "At your service." Well, at the Dark Lord's service, really. He places the bundle on the ground, unwraps it. A grotesque infant-like creature. Voldemort's body, weak and malformed, but conscious. "Harry Potter," Voldemort's voice hisses. "How kind of you to accept my invitation." Back at Hogwarts, Ron and Hermione see everything through the scrying bowl. "That's not the tournament grounds," Hermione says, horrified. The cup was a portkey, Ron realizes. "We need to get Dumbledore, now." A massive cauldron appears. He drops ingredients into it while chanting, "Bone of the father unwillingly given. Flesh of the servant willingly sacrificed." Crouch cuts off his own hand, screaming, and throws it into the cauldron. Blood of the enemy forcibly taken. He approaches Harry, who tries to run but finds himself magically bound to a gravestone. Crouch cuts Harry's arm. Blood drips into the cauldron. The potion turns blinding white. Steam rises. A figure emerges, Lord Voldemort, fully restored, pale, serpentine, terrifying. Harry Potter, Voldemort says, examining his new body. The boy who lived. Twice now you've thwarted me. That ends tonight. He raises his wand. Harry closes his eyes, expecting death. Instead, he hears a phoenix song. Fawkes appears in a burst of flame. Dumbledore arrives moments later, apparating directly to Harry's location using the trace from the bracelet charm. Tom, Dumbledore says calmly, we meet again. Voldemort's eyes widen. Dumbledore, how did you... I've been tracking Harry all evening. Did you really think I'd let him compete without safeguards? The duel begins. It's epic. Voldemort summons Fiendfire. Dumbledore counters with water transmutation, turning the cursed flames into harmless steam. Voldemort casts the killing curse. Dumbledore blocks it with a shield of pure love-based magic that Voldemort's hate cannot penetrate. The duel lasts 5 minutes. Then Voldemort realizes he's outmatched. This isn't over, Albus, Voldemort snarls. He grabs Crouch and disapparates. Dumbledore immediately frees Harry, who collapses. You're safe, Dumbledore says gently. You're safe now. Harry appears in the maze entrance, bleeding and traumatized but alive. Ron and Hermione reach him first, nearly tackling him with the force of their embrace. You're okay, Hermione sobs. You're okay. We saw everything, Ron says, his voice shaking. We thought we'd lost you. I'm here, Harry says. I'm here. The truth comes out quickly. Barty Crouch Jr. had been impersonating Moody all year. He entered Harry's name, turned the cup into a portkey, facilitated Voldemort's return. The Ministry can no longer deny it. Voldemort is back. War is coming. The Daily Prophet begins its assault in July. Dumbledore's child soldiers. Has the headmaster gone too far? The article questions whether Dumbledore should be allowed to raise children while simultaneously preparing them for combat. The boy who lived under Dumbledore's control. This piece suggests Harry is being manipulated, that his loyalty to Dumbledore is unhealthy. Experts worry. Are the headmaster's orphans being groomed for dark magic? Rita Skeeter's Poison Pen writes, sources say the children perform wandless magic not through talent, but through dark rituals conducted in secret by Dumbledore in his tower sanctum. This is rubbish. Complete rubbish. It's propaganda, Hermione says, her jaw tight. The Ministry is trying to discredit Dumbledore so they can deny Voldemort's return without looking incompetent. We fight back, Ron says. We tell the truth. Hermione writes a counter-article for the Quibbler titled, The Truth About Our Education. In it, she explains their training, the love and care Dumbledore has shown them, the emphasis on ethics and choice. Luna Lovegood's father publishes it immediately. Ron confronts Percy, who now works at the Ministry. Are you really going to side with Fudge against Dumbledore? Ron demands during a tense family dinner. The Ministry has legitimate concerns, Percy says stiffly. Dumbledore's methods are unorthodox. Unorthodox isn't illegal, and Fudge is lying about Voldemort. You know he is. The Ministry is wrong. Choose a side, Percy. Family or career. Percy leaves without answering. Harry gives an interview to the Quibbler as well. Dumbledore saved my life. He gave me a family. He taught me that power without love is tyranny. I trust him over Fudge, any day. If that makes me controlled, then I'm proud to be controlled by someone who actually cares whether I live or die. The articles help. Public opinion shifts slightly in Dumbledore's favor. But Fudge isn't done. Dolores Umbridge arrives at Hogwarts wearing pink and smiling like a shark. Her official title, High Inquisitor. Her real job, prove Dumbledore is unfit. She inspects classes, interviews students, takes notes constantly. When she tries to observe the trio's private lessons with Dumbledore, he allows it. You're welcome to watch, Dolores. We have nothing to hide. She sits in on a lesson about transfiguration theory, watches Hermione debate the ethics of permanent human transfiguration, observes Ron and Harry practice complex transformation sequences, finds nothing inappropriate. She tries again with wandless magic practice. This is dangerous, she declares. Wandless magic should not be taught to students. It's unregulated. It's also incredibly useful, Dumbledore counters mildly, and perfectly legal. There are no restrictions on teaching wandless magic. Frustrated, she tries a different approach. Individual interviews. She calls Hermione to her office first. Miss Granger, do you feel Professor Dumbledore pushes you too hard? Hermione meets her gaze steadily. He challenges us appropriately for our skill level. Do you ever feel afraid of him? No, not even when he's angry. He gets disappointed. which is worse in a way, but that's my choice to care about his opinion. Umbridge tries with Harry next. Mr. Potter, does Professor Dumbledore ever make you feel afraid? Only of disappointing him, which is different from fear of him. Explain the difference. I'm afraid of disappointing him because I love him and I want him to be proud of me. I'm not afraid he'll hurt me. There's a difference. Has he ever hurt you? Never. Not once. Not even when I've deserved punishment. Ron's interview is shortest. Mr. Weasley, do you feel safe with Professor Dumbledore? Even though he involves you in dangerous activities, he doesn't involve us. We choose to help because we're capable and willing. That's called agency, not endangerment. Umbridge finds nothing. No evidence of abuse. No sign of manipulation, which makes her more dangerous. Fudge escalates. He calls a formal hearing to determine whether Dumbledore is fit to retain guardianship of the 3 children. The charges are read aloud, raising children in an experimental and dangerous magical environment, teaching them magic beyond their years and outside regulated curriculum, endangering their welfare by involving them in vigilante activities. The hearing is public, the gallery is packed with reporters, concerned citizens, and political vultures waiting to see Dumbledore fall. The prosecution calls witnesses. Lucius Malfoy testifies, "Is it appropriate for the headmaster to raise children who combat dark wizards? It raises questions about whether he's creating a private army." Snape is called next. He testifies reluctantly. Did the children have access to dangerous potions ingredients? Yes, under supervision. They learned why certain ingredients are dangerous. That's education, not endangerment. McGonagall testifies, "I have observed these children for 5 years at Hogwarts. They are the most well-adjusted, morally grounded students I have ever taught. Their education has been rigorous but appropriate. Their emotional well-being has been Dumbledore's primary concern." Sirius testifies, "Dumbledore gave them what I couldn't: stability, education, love. He's a better guardian than I could ever be, and I'm grateful every day that they had him when I wasn't available." Remus testifies, "They know more about dangerous magic than their peers. Yes, but they also know why it's dangerous. That's the difference between education and ignorance. Dumbledore teaches them to think, not just to obey." Then the trio is allowed to speak. Harry goes first. "Minister Fudge, you want to know if our education is dangerous? Let me tell you what's dangerous. Ignorance is dangerous. Being told you're special but never being taught why or how to handle that responsibility is dangerous. Professor Dumbledore taught me that power without love is tyranny, that magic without ethics is destruction. I'm 14 years old, and I can tell you, I'd rather face 100 dark wizards with Dumbledore as my teacher than spend one day in a safe environment where I'm taught to fear my own potential." Ron speaks next. "You want to know if we're child soldiers? We're not. Soldiers follow orders blindly. We're taught to think, to question, to choose. When Professor Dumbledore asks us to help with something dangerous, he explains the risks. He gives us the option to refuse. That's the opposite of what you're accusing him of." Hermione finishes. "Minister Fudge, you ask if our education is regulated. I ask you, regulated by whom? By what standard? By people who denied Sirius Black a trial for 12 years? By people who dismissed Voldemort's return because it was politically inconvenient? Or by a man who has fought dark magic for longer than any of us have been alive, and who has never once put his own interests above ours? I know whose regulation I trust." The chamber goes completely silent. Then someone in the gallery starts clapping. Another joins. Soon, half the room is applauding. The Wizengamot votes. 31 in favor of Dumbledore retaining guardianship. 19 against. Dumbledore wins. But it's closer than it should be. Fudge's closing statement. "This isn't over, Albus. The public will see the truth eventually." Dumbledore's response. "The truth, Cornelius, is that you fear these children not because they're dangerous, but because they're independent. And independence, in your view, is the greatest threat of all." Realizing the ministry won't protect them, the trio expands their training. They form Dumbledore's army, but unlike in another timeline, it's not secret. Dumbledore sanctions it as an advanced defense study group. The first meeting attracts 20 students. Harry teaches defensive spells. Ron teaches strategy and tactical positioning. Hermione teaches the theory behind why spells work. By February, they have 40 members. By April, 60. By June, they have 75 students across all 4 houses learning advanced defensive magic. Umbridge tries to shut it down. She arrives at a meeting with a squad of Aurors, ready to arrest Dumbledore for creating a private army. She finds 75 students practicing shield charms. "This is illegal," she shrieks. "Show me the law," Dumbledore says calmly. You're organizing students against the ministry. I'm organizing students to defend themselves. There's a difference. Fudge himself arrives for the arrest, but when he enters the room of requirement and sees 75 students standing in formation, wands raised ready to defend their headmaster, he hesitates. Neville Longbottom steps forward. "You'll have to arrest us all, Minister, because we're not letting you take Professor Dumbledore." He realizes these aren't victims, they're believers. Arresting Dumbledore would create martyrs, would turn public opinion completely against him. He backs down. "This isn't over," he mutters. "It never is," Dumbledore replies. But Fudge leaves without making the arrest. The students cheer. That night, Dumbledore addresses the DA. "You stood with me today, not because I commanded it, not because you feared punishment, but because you believed in something larger than yourselves. That is why Voldemort will never defeat us. Because we choose unity, and unity is the strongest magic there is." Dumbledore gathers the trio in his office the day after term ends. "We must discuss our strategy for the war ahead. Voldemort is gathering forces. We must counter by eliminating his anchors to this world." "The horcruxes," Hermione says. "Yes, we've destroyed 2, the diary and the ring. 4 remain, plus the fragment in Harry. We must find and destroy them all before confronting Voldemort directly. The cup, the diadem, and Nagini, his snake." "Where do we start?" Ron asks. "With the locket. I believe I know its location." Over the summer, they plan the raid on the cave where Voldemort hid Slytherin's locket. Unlike in another timeline, Dumbledore doesn't go alone, he brings the trio. They arrive at the seaside cave in August. The entrance requires blood. Dumbledore provides it. Inside, the Lake of Inferi, the basin of poison. Dumbledore prepares to drink. "Wait," Ron says. "What if we don't trigger the protections at all? The potion must be drunk to retrieve the locket. But what if we drain the basin without drinking? Use magic to remove the liquid entirely." "The basin is designed to resist vanishing spells, but not physical force," Ron counters. "Let me try." Ron uses wandless force magic. Concentrates. Commands. Rise. The liquid in the basin shudders, then lifts as if pulled by invisible hands. Ron pours it into the lake instead of drinking it. The locket sits at the bottom of the empty basin. Dumbledore picks it up, stunned. "Ronald, you just bypassed protections Voldemort believed impregnable. He built them to resist spells, not raw force. They take the locket, leave before the Inferi can attack." Back at Hogwarts, Dumbledore destroys it with the sword of Gryffindor. 3 horcruxes down. Hermione negotiates with the goblins over Christmas break. She offers them something Dumbledore has been working on for months: a formal treaty recognizing goblin sovereignty and artifact ownership rights. In exchange, Griphook helps them raid Bellatrix Lestridge's vault. They retrieve Hufflepuff's cup in January. The diadem is easier. Harry simply asks the castle, "Hogwarts, you know me. You've known me since I was a baby. There's an object hidden here that contains a piece of a dark wizard's soul. Where is it?" The castle responds. Staircases shift. A door appears that wasn't there before. The room of hidden things reveals itself. Harry finds the diadem in March. 4 horcruxes destroyed. Only Nagini and Harry's scar remain. Dumbledore finally reveals the full prophecy to Harry. Neither can live while the other survives. Harry processes this. "So one of us has to kill the other, or one of you must sacrifice yourself so completely that the magic binding you is severed. The horcrux, Harry has to die to destroy it." That was the original design, yes. Hermione stands up. "Unacceptable. There has to be another way." "I've been researching for 15 years, my dear. I haven't found one yet." Then we research harder. For 6 months, they pour through every text in the restricted section. Dumbledore consults with the most brilliant magical theorists alive. Finally, Hermione finds something: a theoretical paper written in 1612 about the twice-given sacrifice. The theory: if someone who has already sacrificed for another can be invoked by someone willing to sacrifice again, the 2 sacrifices can create a resonance that purifies without destroying. "Lily sacrificed herself for Harry," Hermione explains, her hands shaking with excitement. That created the first protection. If Harry willingly sacrifices himself for others, it creates the second sacrifice. And if we can invoke Lily's magic at the moment of Harry's sacrifice, the 2 protections might resonate strongly enough to destroy the Horcrux without killing Harry. It's theoretical, Dumbledore warns. Never tested. It's a chance, Harry says. Better than certain death. They prepare, practice the ritual, create contingencies. But they know, when the final battle comes, this is their only hope. Voldemort doesn't wait for them to be ready. He attacks Hogwarts directly in May, seeking to kill Harry and break Dumbledore's power once and for all. The forces arrayed against them, 60 Death Eaters, 3 Giants, 30 Dementors, Voldemort himself, the defense. Dumbledore and the Order, the DA, now 150 students strong. The trio, the battle begins at midnight. Voldemort attempts to break Hogwarts wards. Dumbledore channeling the Elder Wand reinforces them. The trio adds their magic to his, wandless, pure, strong. The wards hold Death Eaters breach through Aberforth's pub. The DA meets them with tactics the trio taught. Students fight in teams, never alone, always covering each other. Ron leads a squad using disarming tactics. Hermione coordinates shield walls. Harry faces Bellatrix Lestrange in single combat. The battle rages for hours. Then Voldemort enters the Great Hall. Dumbledore confronts him, but the trio doesn't watch. They create a sympathetic magic circle around Dumbledore, amplifying his power through their connection to him. The duel is magnificent. Voldemort summons Fiend Fire. Dumbledore counters with elemental water transmutation. Voldemort casts the Killing Curse. Dumbledore blocks with love-based shield magic, but Voldemort has Nagini, the final Horcrux besides Harry. As long as she lives, Voldemort cannot die. Neville Longbottom, who has been training in secret with the Sword of Gryffindor, seizes his moment. He kills Nagini with a single clean strike. Voldemort screams. His immortality is broken, except for the piece in Harry. Voldemort turns. You're the last one. If I kill you, I'm whole again. Harry steps forward. Then do it, but know this. I choose this. Lily chose to die for me. I choose to die for everyone here, and love freely given is stronger than any magic you possess. The green light hits him. Harry falls. Ron collapses, screaming. Hermione catches him, both sobbing. But Dumbledore feels it through their bond. The moment Harry dies, he channels the ultimate magic, the Elder Wand's true power, not to conquer death, but to respect it. He calls Harry back. Through love, through the twice-given sacrifice resonance, Lily's protection and Harry's sacrifice harmonize. The Horcrux is destroyed, and Harry wakes in a space between life and death. You can go back, a voice says. He looks up, sees his mother. Mum, you don't have to, Harry. You can rest, be at peace. But they need me. They'll survive without you. You've done enough. Harry thinks of Ron and Hermione. Of Dumbledore? Of Sirius? No, I'm not done yet. Then go. Live. Be happy. Harry wakes in Hagrid's arms. Voldemort stares in disbelief. You died? I felt you die. I did die, but I came back, because I have something you never understood. People who love me enough to call me home. Harry raises his wand. Voldemort raises his. They cast simultaneously. Voldemort's curse rebounds. His body disintegrates. Tom Riddle dies for the final time. The battle ends. 23 students injured. None dead because the DA training saved lives. 7 Order members killed, including Tonks and Remus. Tragic losses that will be mourned. Hogwarts damaged but repairable. But Voldemort is gone. The Death Eaters captured. The Wizarding World free. Harry stands in the Great Hall surrounded by rubble and survivors. Ron and Hermione reach him first. You're alive, Ron sobs. You're actually alive. I'm here, Harry says. I'm here. They hold each other, the trio, together, alive. Dumbledore approaches, tears streaming down his face. You did it, you chose sacrifice, and you survived it. I am so very proud of you. We did it, Harry corrects. All of us. Together. Kingsley Shacklebolt becomes Minister of Magic. Hermione, 18 years old, is appointed as his special advisor on magical law reform. Ron joins the Aurora training program, but focuses on teaching rather than fieldwork. Harry takes a year off to heal and process everything. Dumbledore steps down as headmaster. I've spent 50 years guiding Hogwarts. It's time for fresh eyes. McGonagall becomes headmistress. Dumbledore's new role, Chief Warlock of the Wizengamot, focusing on international magical cooperation. Hermione's legacy takes shape through legislation. The House Elf Liberation Act of 2000 grants rights and wages to all house elves. The Muggle-Born Protection Act of 2001 outlaws discrimination and creates integration programs. The Werewolf Rights Act of 2002 ensures access to wolfsbane potion and employment protections. The Goblin Equality Treaty of 2003 recognizes goblin sovereignty and artifact ownership. Ron revolutionizes Auror training, emphasizing de-escalation and community protection over combat. Harry returns to Hogwarts in 2005. As defense against the dark arts professor, his teaching philosophy, dark magic exists. We don't hide from it. We understand it so we can fight it. But more importantly, so we never become it. Harry marries Ginny Weasley in 2003. They have 3 children, James Sirius, Albus Severus, Lily Luna. Harry names his second son after 2 men who shaped his life. But this Albus is raised knowing both Dumbledores, the legend and the man. Ron and Hermione marry in 2002. They have 2 children, Rose and Hugo. Ron opens a magical strategy consultancy. Hermione becomes Minister of Magic in 2010. Every year on May 2nd, the anniversary of the Battle of Hogwarts, the trio returns to Dumbledore's office for tea with his portrait. They tell him about their year, their struggles, their victories, and every year, Portrait Dumbledore says, "I am so very proud of you, not for what you accomplished, but for who you have become." Dumbledore, now 129 years old, stands on the Hogwarts Express platform. He's saying goodbye to James, Sirius Potter, Rose Weasley, and several other first years. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stand with him. James asks, "Great-Grandpa Albus, will you tell me about the war when I visit at Christmas?" Dumbledore kneels slowly. "I will tell you about the peace that followed, my boy. That is the more important story." They walk back to Hogwarts together. Ron, "Think we did okay, Professor?" Harry, "The best." They reach the castle gates. Dumbledore pauses, looking up at Hogwarts. "You know, I spent most of my life afraid. Afraid of power. Afraid of love. Afraid of loss. But you 3 taught me that fear is not the enemy. Isolation is. Together we can face any fear. Together we can build any future." He smiles. "Thank you for letting an old man learn one final lesson. That family is not just who you're born to. It's who you choose. And I chose well." Dumbledore dies peacefully in his sleep at age 131. His funeral is attended by hundreds. But his eulogy is given by 3 people. Harry speaks of his courage. He was brave enough to love us when he feared love would destroy him. Ron speaks of his wisdom. He taught us that knowledge without compassion is worthless. Hermione speaks of his love. He showed us that family is built, not born. They finish in unison. We are who we are because of who he was. And we will carry that forward together for as long as we live. Then bursts into flame and is reborn as a chick. The Phoenix era ends. But the legacy continues. Years later, Harry becomes headmaster of Hogwarts in 2015. He keeps Dumbledore's portrait in the office. One night, unable to sleep, he sits before it. "Professor, are you awake?" The portrait Dumbledore opens his eyes. "For you, Harry, always." "I was thinking about something you asked me once. About the Mirror of Erised, what I saw in it, and what did you see? When I was young, I saw my family, my parents alive, everyone together. And now, what would you see if you looked into it today?" Harry considers, thinks about Ginny asleep upstairs, his children grown and happy, Ron and Hermione's family thriving, the peace they built. "I'd see exactly what's in front of me, because my deepest desire came true. I'm not alone. I never have to be alone again." Portrait Dumbledore smiles. "Then you have learned the greatest magic of all, how to be content, how to be whole. That is my final gift to you. Not knowledge, not power, but peace. Use it well." Harry sits in the quiet office, surrounded by sleeping portraits and the soft clicking of silver instruments. He thinks about the boy who arrived at Hogwarts at 15 months old, orphaned and alone. Thinks about the man he became, surrounded by family he chose, and who chose him. Thinks about the future his children will build, and he understands. The story was never about defeating Voldemort. It was about learning that love is the most powerful magic of all. That unity defeats isolation. That family is who you choose, and that the greatest victory is not surviving the war, it's building the peace that follows. Together. Always together. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.